Now it's just like, man, you got to have that time where you just like disconnect from the scene, just the race, like, and it's a race that I've created in my head, you know. But you have to step away from it.
We about to turn it on. Turn it on.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to week number 7 of Downshift Esports. We saw a Japanese track last week, but we are upgrading or downgrading, depending on the way you want to look at it, because it's Tsukuba. It's the 0.5 of mile, or about a kilometer, go-kart track. Ladies and gentlemen, if you remember the Daytona Banana from week number 1, expect chaos. Expect car crashes, and expect aerial vehicles. Space shuttle statusing at the end of the main 30-minute race. My name is Brian Schubert. Drew Akers is joining me in the broadcast booth. Drew, what do you expect to take place today? What level of chaos out of 10 are we going to see?
Man, if I had to give it a number, I don't know if I would be able to give it a proper number on that scale of 1 to 10 because it's gonna be.
What is that box?
Ridiculous.
Sorry to interrupt you.
What
is this?
That's a very good question. I don't know what that box is. I would have to think it's like some kind of pit box. But if someone crashes into that could tear out the entire power, couldn't it?
Yeah, sorry, I interrupted your point about chaos.
You're
I was
totally
just so
fine.
blown away by this giant box on my screen.
Oh, that's hilarious. But I mean, there's no number I don't think that you can put that would emphasize the amount of chaos that we could see today. And I hope the drivers didn't have too much sushi, as you know, I have had up here in the booth, Brian. I tried to share some with you, and you know, I just couldn't do it. I had to have it all, and I'm a little bloated at the moment, so hopefully they don't feel the same, and we'll see if also that sushi weighs them down on the track.
Oh, so that's live timing. That's what that. So if you see it, like you can see the numbers on the back, so the drivers have real-time information.
Really?
However, did you notice that it was A, facing the direction that our cars are going, and B, there's only tires going counter track. So I guess
it could go either way. I don't know.
yeah, the tires are counter track right now, and look at it. There's little offs. There's an 11 going towards the box. Somebody has already impaled themselves in it.
Well, hopefully they will not continue to do so. It is a it is a bad time when you do that, Brian. But I mean, some of these guys, like we were seeing in practice, though, might have a pretty decent advantage.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, some of these drivers are running incredibly fast times, and others, Drew, I don't think they practiced because it showed. There were more drivers off track than I think I've ever seen. Now, this is a go-kart track, and we're running an actual car. So, A, there's not a lot of runoff. B, there's not a lot of width on the track. And C, go-karts have a different turn radius since the wheelbase is, well, tiny compared to a race car. So these guys are going to be struggling.
Oh, absolutely. There's no question about that. It's going to be tough for these guys in general, especially with the way that we're looking at it right now. I mean, it looks kind of like a paperclip almost. 2 major hairpins with probably a good 4 or 5 90-degree angles right there. Thankfully for them, and kind of also not thankfully, the track temperature is 69 degrees Fahrenheit. And
nice.
That's probably not going to be favorable for their tires in the slightest.
It'll be favorable for our jokes, though. So that's going to be nice to have going down the ways.
It's always good for our jokes. I mean,
we have fun here. We have too much fun sometimes. I think we'll have more fun than certain drivers in our field, especially the ones that are going to be getting torpedoed during portions of this. I mean, it's there's so little track width. Most of the corners, I mean, you could barely fit 2 Vs. And how often are we seeing some drivers, some enterprising drivers during the first few corners try to put themselves 3 to 4 wide? And on a full circuit, it doesn't work. On a baby circuit, on a go-kart track, Drew, it's just not going to happen.
There's no way that it could happen, and I don't think it's going to be feasible for anyone to try and do that. If anyone does try to do that, I'm sure there would be a very stern talking to when it comes to the race control, trying to point things out. But some of these guys are probably just going to be comfortable kind of falling in line one by one to just let the places come to them, as we've seen at not only Daytona Banana, but also Okayama last week. It was mainly the drivers that survived that were able to get some decent points out of the race. So, I mean, a lot of these drivers could very well just hang tight hang back and just run their race, and they might get decent points out of it.
I wonder if we're going to see a new race winner. So weeks 1 through 3 were won by Jimmy Hayden. Weeks 4 through 6 was Caleb Clifton. So now entering into week number 7, it would be nice to see if somebody would be a new victor. And maybe we would start a new trend. Well, this new victor would take the next 3 race weekends in a row. And honestly, Caleb Clifton, I'm sure he wants one of these race wins today because he is closing in on that points championship to Jimmy Hayden. I mean, Jimmy Hayden had an incredible first few weeks. He started to fall off after making a few mistakes here and there. So I guess it's now just a new era of Caleb Clifton.
I believe so. Caleb Clifton has really shined when it comes to his racing on the track right now in the Formula Vs. He's had the absence of Jimmy Hayden in week 6. That's the only time Jimmy Hayden wasn't able to race against him. But needless to say, Caleb Clifton has come out with 3 wins, 3 straight wins in weeks 4 through 6. And, same with Jimmy Hayden. He won weeks 1 through 3. Like you said, we'll see if there's another trend for these next 3 weeks. This week, 1,000 full at Tsukuba Circuit, right? Next week, or in 2 weeks' time, on the 2nd of December, it's going to be Tsukuba Circuit 2,000 full, the bigger track, as we see in the background for most of the time. And then, after that, it would be the Charlotte Motor Speedway Legends RC Long Track. That is an interesting track, and we'll get to that when it comes around on the 9th of December as well. Yeah, that should be an interesting one, I think. It's running the official races. It's also pretty technical when it comes to trying to make sure that you're just having the best race for yourself. Making sure the throttle is good, the brakes are good. All these tracks are pretty technical, and we got to thank our race controller, Sean Ryan, for that. And then, to top it all off, Brian, I think, I don't know about you, but this has to be one of my favorite circuits in all of iRacing currently, and that's the WeatherTech Raceway at Laguna Seca.
I love that track. Now, you mentioned being technical. Let's actually dive on board right now with Jimmy Hayden to see what a lap around this go-kart track looks like. Because this track is just gnarly. It is extremely technical. We talked about how there's very little, track width. I mean, that's going to force drivers to put themselves in the right position. What we just saw there, that is one of the middle corners. That is corners number 5 through 7. I mean, it's a double apex, and these cars are difficult to get around double apexes. In fact, most of these corners are a double apex. Entering into what's going to be turn 1 and 2, a double apex. And I think a lot of drivers, at least especially on the Spec Racer Ford side where I'm from, they just can't put their 3 brain cells together around a double apex.
Some of these guys do have a little bit of trouble, and it all comes with not practicing, right? The practice sessions that are provided for these racers are done the day before, and it's look at Jimmy Hayden just even getting a little bit sideways right there. He still holds the top time currently, though, so that'll be won't affect him too much. But those qualifying sessions can really help in the days before. It's 3 hours. These guys have a lot of time to build up to what they want to do.
And the thing with these corners, the thing with double apex is you have to realize entry speed is meaningless. It doesn't really affect your corner. It's all about corner exit. And a lot of drivers in double apex corners, they want to carry a lot of rolling speed into that first corner, and then it washes them out, it pushes them wide, and they miss the apex of their second corner, resulting them being slow, potentially having to go to the brakes to get some weight to actually transfer those front tires so the car actually turns. Sometimes you'll just plow understeer without any brakes being needed. Sometimes you'll throttle understeer, where you just hop on the throttle and the car just goes straight. That's why double apexes are so hard. Plus, you can have it happen to Jimmy Hayden. You can come on the throttle too much and have throttle oversteer. The exact opposite of throttle understeer. Like, double apexes is all about car control and car balance, and particularly the weight transfer.
Yeah, it's going to be difficult for these guys, but I mean, I have no doubt that these guys have the ability to do so, even with the minimal practice that some of these guys are even able to achieve. Everyone's got their own work lives. Their home work-life balance is a little bit skewed at this very moment in time, but these guys still come out on track, still show their heart, and we appreciate them for that. One thing I do want to mention, though, is I'm looking forward to these championship battles that we currently have. I mean, Coy McGrath only sits somewhere around 19 points away from Jimmy Hayden in that first place spot. And then Caleb Clifton behind him also sits probably another 18 points behind him. But even lower so, 4th, 5th, and 6th place, all separated by just over 20 points. So, I mean, some of these guys might not have the greatest races, and it's going to affect them. If any of these guys can really make a statement on their race today while their competitors fail a little bit, it's going to make a huge impact in the standings.
Are you encouraging our drivers to go out and touch grass?
If that means that they get to have a life currently, it's more than me, I can say that.
Hey, you're trying to become a big boy doctor guy, so like, when you signed up for your profession, you signed up not to have a life.
Fair enough. Fair enough. I will take that under my wing. That's for sure.
Well, we're already seeing a lot of catastrophes.
We are.
We're seeing a lot of guys every which way, scattered across track, kind of scattered around. Oh yeah, there's another example of that. Uh-oh.
Not sure who that is. Honestly, that looked like a candy cane car, if I'm honest. And I think.
We're not allowed to have anything Christmas before Thanksgiving. That is an automatic disqualification. Sean Ryan will be going over to your pits, taking your easy up, and throwing it into the garbage if you are rocking a candy cane livery or any Christmas livery before Thanksgiving.
I would not doubt it, but something to note as well. That looks to be a little bit of contact. Is that a back left flat tire am I seeing? That looked very peculiar. Yeah, he is. Dan Gallupo sideways has to tow into the pits. I thought I saw a flat tire there.
Well, many things can happen when you wheel hop. We've been talking throughout this season about the dangers of having an open wheel Formula car. I mean, shown there what happened to Brian Voles, right? Your wheels are exposed and drivers can fly over them, forcing the car to go airborne, and it's going to cause structural damage. I think Brian kind of got lucky here in that scenario, though, just because, well, he seems not to have damage, and that's probably because he just got lagged into oblivion. Welcome to iRacing, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, it sometimes can be that way, and that little puff of smoke on these Formula Vs sometimes, when I'm driving myself, I kind of just get jump scared a little bit. Hopefully these guys don't get that, as it is a very small track, and these guys really have to have their blinders on today in order to focus.
I don't think iRacing replicates it well enough, because when these things downshift, it's not just the blue puff of smoke. It's what?
What was that? What was that? I don't know who that was.
Who has a brown car, bro? Okay.
That might have been Corey Abbott. I mean, I could try and get a replay of that, because that was.
Can we please?
That was off the. That was off the rails. I don't know what just happened.
Zoom in. Somebody was zooming. And all right, who is that car? Let's just follow him. Let's get that number.
I think
who's behind Clifton?
Let's see if this was it. I think this might
21
have been
car. Oh, his wheels grab and he goes for a ride.
That is not what you want to see on the track.
Oh, no. Oh, absolutely not. Clip it and ship it, ladies and gentlemen. My lord. I was about to say, these cars in real life, having been unfortunately behind a few of them, they don't just puff of blue smoke. They actually drop oil. And not only does it put oil all over the track, it puts it all over your visor. And you just go through tear-offs. It's miserable.
I would imagine. I'd imagine that's a lot of kick up too, or kickback onto your helmet there, and you'd have to use a lot of screens there. I forget what tear-offs. There you go.
Tear-offs.
I am not using my brain today. Okay.
At least you were born with a brain.
I mean, you shouldn't talk about my co-caster like that, all right? That's not nice. That is not nice. You will not get sushi after this.
Did you notice that Jimmy Hayden just went for a ride? He spun it going in through turns 5 through 7. Just a little bit too much throttle there, I would guess.
Absolutely. I did notice that. However, still holding the top time by more than 1/10 of a second, I think right now he's got nothing to worry about. However, like we did mention at the start, Jimmy Hayden and Caleb Clifton currently well away from everyone third and back right now. That's 5/10 between Jimmy Hayden and Dan Gallupo.
Can I just say, what a wonderful run from Dan Gallupo. Dan has been struggling in some rate. Like, we've seen him in the back of the field. And for him to currently be seated in third place right now, what a wonderful job. My suspicion is Dan has been able to spend some time to practice, and he's now really showing his strengths as a driver, because we started talking about the day, some drivers, honestly, to be brutally honest, they didn't do their due diligence and they didn't actually practice, and it was starting to show. Just like Mr. Kinney over there in the 15 car, the one that has a Sharpie taken to it. His livery says, "Vroom, go fast, free car." I think he needs to be selling his car at this point.
With 25 seconds left, I don't know if he'll find a buyer, so he might have to race this one, Brian. So he's gonna stick behind this candy cane car. And I can't tell who that is, to be honest. I can't see the number on that one as he goes through straight to the cones, and that's going to be interesting.
So in iRacing, what happens when you cut the track like that? Is it like, oh, nope, your time isn't published anymore?
That's a great question, Brian, as the qualifying session ends, and we'll get the grid here for you shortly. But when you cut the track, it will either cut out the time, it will cut out the time during qualifying if you get any kind of incident, such as an off track or touching another car. So these guys have a decently strict qualifying procedure that they need to follow, and some of these guys have utilized it very easily, in that of Jimmy Hayden and Caleb Clifton.
Now we're about to go into our 15-minute qualifying race, or our sprint race, and we won't be seeing a field inversion yet. That takes place during our main event, and your starting row is going to be Jimmy Hayden, the 3-time winner so far this season, followed by the other 3-time winner, Caleb Clifton. That first row, Drew, is stacked. It's star-studded right now. And that second row, a familiar face, but a face that has been towards the back of the field, Mr. Dan Gallupo himself. What a beautiful qualifying, followed up by Corey Abbott in the outside lane.
Absolutely. Coy McGrath sitting in 5th, probably not going to be his best start of the season. Nick Leidy right there in 6th. Decent middle of the pack for Nick, and the rest follows there as the green flag will get underway soon. Hardcastle right behind Nick Leidy, Jason Heisey behind him, Brian Voles, Anthony Cuthbert back in the seat once again. Welcome back, Anthony, from your long hiatus. Kenny McGrath all the way in 11th, and Randall Sheriff, the rookie in the Formula V League, in the last place spot.
Drivers queued up on track, moments away from the green flag dropping. There it goes. Our drivers released for this 15-minute race. They're actually more or less in line. Now the middle part of the field starting to fan out. Jimmy Hayden is a wonderful run from him. He just is able to make the break. And who is that on the outside lane? That's a 21 of Abbott, who's able to go around a few cars on the outside. But we survived turn 1, Drew. But will they survive the next corner, turn 3? Brian Bowles gets tagged. It's contact with Kinney. But all the cars are still more or less intact. And Brian's still in the charge. Around turn 5 on the outside he goes.
Absolutely. And you know what? Relatively clean from all these drivers. Just a little bit of touching from Brian Voles and Jason Heisey, if I recall correctly. Regardless, that is racing hard and that is racing fair. But Andrew Hardcastle currently out into the pits. That is a development I was not expecting. And there's Coy McGrath sideways and backwards into the grass as well. He'll drop to the back of the pack.
Coy gave himself an award at the start, or I guess at the conclusion of the Super Street, or a Street Stock race back on Tuesday. He referred to himself as the hottest driver in the field, but he's now ice stone cold, Drew, as he finds himself spinning backwards. I guess he's still in the lead lap, so that's a plus for him. You said that this start was not the best for him. Brian Voles at 44 car, a little bit sideways. These curbs are lethal, Drew. There's certain curbs that have those alligator teeth, or also known as turtles, and if you climb them, it's going to reject you utterly, and it's going to send you off track.
Absolutely, and sometimes these guys are touching it just a little too much as opposed to what their normal racing line would be. These guys can get a little overzealous when they're trying to push, such that Kenny McGrath right there, as we're trying, is battling Brian Voles right ahead of him. Can't quite get it around, and he's still still losing the car after those turns. That's just the beauty of how these guys are able to handle this.
I guess Kenny can keep his free car for now as he's doing a decent job of working his way back up to the field. I mean, we expect greatness from him. He's currently up 3 spots, and look at the pressure that Brian Voles is feeling from Kenny. Kenny does a wonderful job. A particular over-under, maybe, for Brian Voles, unable to do so. And yeah, good job to the 6 car, Sheriff, the rookie in the field.
Right now, Randall Sheriff going to be making some decent moves. Coy McGrath right behind him, just looming, gonna be trying to make his positions up, and it's 3 wide in the middle straight right there momentarily.
Great job from Sheriff, the 6 car, the black and green car on your screen, to just lift and back out of that 3 wide. He was not going to make that corner. He just didn't have the angle to make it through. And if he forced that, he probably would have taken out the 2 drivers in front of him.
Oh, no!
But he's still now there pressuring. Who's that? That's the 20 car around.
Andrew Hardcastle yet again. I think he is now 2 laps down at this point, and Andrew Hardcastle's probably not going to be very happy with that. But another note, Caleb Clifton all the way down in 24th currently. So many crashes happening on the track right now, I can't even keep up.
Cuthbert is around. He ends up spinning. He was running up in 3rd place right now, and that's a critical mistake. It seems like our really strong drivers, Drew, are just putting themselves in bad spots. It might come down to the fact that these Formula Vs weren't designed for this small of a circuit. This is, after all, a go-kart.
Oh, and there's Randall Sheriff
around, but he's able to get by pretty easily. But now he has Hardcastle behind him 2 laps down. Sheriff had an incredible run, and I guess the rookie is just starting to make those mistakes. That's what happens when you are just in pack racing like this. You're trying to get around the drivers in front of you, and sometimes you just get a little bit carried away with your racing.
Sometimes that can happen, Brian, and we'll try and get a quick look at what may have happened to that 24 car of Caleb Clifton way back when, a couple laps ago. So this is him right behind Jimmy Hayden right there, and going into turn 1. You talked about it, Brian. Those corners are going to be very tricky for these guys.
Curbs are lethal. They will always transfer weight. Sometimes that's a good thing, sometimes it's not. You have to remember that these Formula Vs, with the engine and transmission over the rear axle, they can sometimes induce liftoff oversteer, just like we saw, and just like that. Double apex corners are extremely dangerous. Look at your mirrors when you're merging back on track, whoever was that purple car. Man, the driving instructor in me just gets triggered when I see stuff like that.
Well, that's the thing, thankfully, is that some of these guys are still trying to learn racing etiquette, but look at the 44 sideways currently, 26 seconds and counting down away from the leader.
That's Brian Voles around. Brian was struggling for sure during practice earlier today. He was off track a lot, and unfortunately that's carrying over now to the heat qualifying race. But I guess that's the thing, Drew. If you make mistakes now, you can still have this almost as a practice session, learn from your mistakes, and, well, follow the guy in front of you, learn what they're doing, learn from their mistakes, learn from their success, and start to piece it together once we enter into that 30-minute actual main race. Now, it's interesting that we're not seeing a lot of drafting. This is the first time that we're seeing a draft at all, as Cuthbert is able to go around Jason Heisey in the 3 car. But we've been seeing the Vs draft on just about every track that we've gone through all 6 weeks, and I think this track is just so small you don't really have the opportunity of using the draft.
It really isn't going to be too helpful, except for maybe the split seconds if you're right up on the tail of that Formula V, such as Jason Heisey was just out of range to do right there. But like we saw earlier on the front straight, Anthony Cuthbert was right there with Jason Heisey, and maybe even had a little bit more momentum because of the wide angle that he took, was able to get into the gas a little earlier than Jason in that number 3 car, and was able to pull that move off.
Still, you have Jason threatening behind you. Look at the weight transfer that is well, these cars are undergoing. You can see the 3 car, just too much brake there, Drew, and it forces that understeer because, well, there's so much weight on those front tires. And, the 3 car goes around. Sheriff, I believe his nose was used to facilitate that. Just a little bit too much rolling speed. We saw that in the street stocks earlier this week, and I guess now the Formula Vs are going to be using that front nose cone.
Well, it would be a bad idea if I had to say so myself if you tried to use that. I mean, you can try to do it. I don't think it's going to be very efficient in most of these areas. However, these guys know more than me, and that's why I'm up here, Brian. I mean, these guys trying to use the bumpers is going to be very, very volatile because of their ability to just take the nose off, and that would impact their draft, their downforce, everything about it. So I say downforce, but what downforce does this car have, really?
It has drag. That's all it's got. I guess to a certain extent, that's all downforce is. Or, no. We've actually seen these cars airborne just about every single race, so I guess you can call it upforce?
I don't even know anymore. These guys just find creative ways to go about racing, and that's what I love about them.
This is a very unique line there, and this is also a very unique track. And these multi-combination corners is forcing our drivers to constantly analyze which is the most important corner. And it's usually going to be the last corner in combination, because the last corner in combination should lead to the longest straightaway, which means it's the most important. So sometimes you have to give on corner entry and the follow-up corners just to make sure that you have maximum rolling speed for corner exit of that final corner, because that's all that really matters, is that final corner exit speed.
Absolutely.
Oh, wow.
And I think there was a little bit of a drop from Randall Sheriff there, as might have had a little bit of a connection issue, and he is back, thankfully. But noting Coy McGrath right now all the way back up to 5th from where he was just that lap 2 incident. And there's another car in the background that is sideways, and that's the number 09 of Anthony Cuthbert.
Now, Coy is in exactly the same spot that he qualified in, so this is not going to be bad performance from him if he just maintains his spot, but he was running with the sharp end of the stick, and he has been, in fact, all series long, both here in the Vs and in the street stocks. He's been one of our strongest drivers, but our true strongest driver, well, that has been Jimmy Hayden, just time and time again, Drew. Jimmy Hayden has been unstoppable. You put him in the street stocks, you put him in a V, and the man just turns clean laps.
I mean, it's no question that Jimmy Hayden has had experience behind the seatbelts, and he's been proving it time and time again. He proved it last season as well in the Street Stock League. This season, he's pushing more than he ever has, I feel like, and he's met some decent competition, not only in the Street Stock League, but also in the Formula V League as well.
Just his line is so efficient. Like, listen to his throttle. He is not being aggressive with the throttle. He's not making these big on-off, which induces weight transfer. He is clinical with the brakes, on the brakes, maybe balance the car with no brake, no throttle, and then modulate the throttle back on. It's well done, and you can see why he's probably the only driver that really isn't understeering or oversteering. And everybody else, I mean, they just have these big moments with the car.
Absolutely, and these guys, again, it comes down sometimes to having that practice, especially on a very short track like this. For the guys that didn't necessarily get any sort of practice at the Daytona track that we saw in week 1, they had more of a difficult time, especially those that were first getting back on track, and that of Dane Galup. I know during week 1 that he had literally signed up a day before, and he was not able to practice as much. So it comes down to, being able to drive on a whim, or are you going to utilize that time to try and get that practice in and do well?
And practice matters in a car like the Formula V. It's a very unique car, and it doesn't translate well. For example, like if you were to pick up a GT car, you can hop into just about any IMSA car. And if you're running a Formula car, you can hop into a prototype relatively well because of the downforce packages. But when you have a car that has the engine over that rear axle, like we were talking about earlier, that liftoff oversteer is just something that's very difficult for drivers to understand. Like, you can't really drive this car with an American style. What that means is you can't necessarily go for a trail brake. Sometimes you have to drive it English style, which means you're braking in the straight line.
And looking at that right now, I mean, the 09 of Anthony Cuthbert going around and around yet again for him right now he's been struggling on his return into the Formula V. It looks like he might have needed some of that practice as well. Maybe this will be his practice to try and show up in the feature race here in 3 minutes time as well, Brian.
I think Jimmy Hayden has this race completely in the bag unless he makes a mistake, but it's Jimmy Hayden after all. I don't think Jimmy Hayden knows what the word mistake means because he doesn't make mistakes. Actually, he made a mistake he made one mistake all season, and that was Alton Park when he spun on lap number 1. That was it.
He rarely makes them, that is for sure. But looking at this Candy Cane car and that of Nick Lighty, getting a little outside and sideways as correct me if I'm wrong, Brian, but I don't think you're supposed to race in grass.
Well, maybe if you have a grass race car? Do those exist?
Well, are these grass race cars? Because, I mean, it'd be fun.
No,
but
certainly not, Drew. Yeah. Just keep those weird circular things that are black on the black asphalt. Pro tip. That is my A1 level professional analyst.
Pro tip from an SCCA driving coach in that. But this is a battle that has been brewing for laps upon laps so far, Brian, and that is Dan Gallupo in that second place spot. Corey Abbott right behind him, and look no further behind Corey Abbott, but 80.88 seconds back. Caleb Clifton trying to make up his time with 1 minute 30 to go.
Not a lot of time left on that clock, though, and Dan Gallupo already starting to get defensive, and with this much time left on the clock, he's going to make a mistake being defensive. Oh, no, that was a mistake I was just about to allude to. You can't be driving in your mirrors that early on. Like, if you're going to be defensive, you have to be not reactive, you have to be predictive with it. Instead, he was just putting himself on a defensive line early on, and, well, you can see what it did there. It put himself in a bad position. He didn't have quite the turn and angle to make that corner.
And that's another thing, too, Brian. Sorry to cut you off, but, like, these drivers, and I'm sure you can allude to it, when you try and practice a track, you don't just practice one line over and over again. Oh, yeah. You practice every line possible when it comes to these road courses.
Yeah, especially for turn number 1, if you know you're starting on inside, like, you have to put your wheels down there at least one of your practice sessions just to feel what the braking is like, because if you know anything about racing, like, surface is different. Like, on the line and off the line, like, surfaces are completely different, and you need to be well versed in, especially if you know, like, I'm good on this particular corner exit, which means I'm going to be hopefully good going into another braking zone. You have to be able to practice when you hop offline to go for that pass.
Absolutely. Well, look no further. 10 seconds to go. Caleb Clifton right on the tail of Corey Abbott. They've already received the white flag, and next time by it will be the checkered. Will he make the move? He's already trying to look down the inside. Couldn't quite get it there, though, Brian.
Don't think he'll be able to get it through the final 2 corners. Turn 9 and turn 11 washes out wide, though, for Corey Abbott, but he still has enough exit speed, and that's Jimmy Hayden, who ended up winning the entire session. He ran away with it, a 7-second lead. Abbott, Clifton, and Gallupo to round out the 3 drivers battling for 2nd through 4th. I mean, that battle was incredible, and if we see our drivers close like they were just now, Drew, I'm expecting to see some wonderful laps.
I am going to be extremely excited for the rest of this race when it comes to the feature race here in a few minutes' time, because these guys put on a show for this sprint race, and I'm excited to see if there's any adjustments to what these guys had as well. I know that Caleb Clifton might have some adjustments of his own. Coy McGrath also probably looking to try and have some sort of adjustment on his end, as those two probably not exactly where they wanted to finish right there.
It's still learning for our drivers. Like, this track is new. This track is also a very odd track. It's a go-kart track after all. And I think this is our drivers' almost first times around a track like this. I've driven a couple of cars on go-kart tracks in the past, and it is very different. Even sighting in a car on a go-kart track is different, because if you're used to running a traditional track like the long version here, you're used to looking far ahead, and on a go-kart track you have to be very quick with your eye movement to be putting yourself in the right spot. It's almost like autocross.
It is going to be tough for these guys, and like we said before, hopefully the sprint race was somewhat of an adjustment or an ability to adjust for any of these guys, because I'm sure some of these guys are going to have something to say about what happened in their race and what they could have improved if we were to interview them right now. However, though, I do have an interesting question for you, Brian. If you had to choose a livery of your own, what would you put on it?
Golf.
Oh God! I can't believe I asked that question. Okay,
I
Brian.
was so fast with that. I love that sky blue and orange combination. It is my favorite car livery. I wanted to paint my spec racer that. Like, I really wanted to go with that. I was told no, that I was not allowed to paint my car golf.
Well, while I continue to be disappointed in your answer, if you have a livery that you want to come to life, then make sure to check out needhamdesigns.uk/Discord. Needham Designs is a designer who's been making liveries for drivers all across the iRacing service since 2019. He's made all types of liveries, not only my own personal liveries. He'll probably make yours as well, Brian, even though I might hate it a little bit. He's also made some Downshift liveries, as you can see, that Brian Voles is sporting, and those Downshift liveries are on his public profile on Trading Paints as well. So if you want to get your own livery right now for a decent price, for a cheap price as well, make sure to visit needhamdesigns.uk/Discord for more information.
And you could also do what I did for my spec racer Ford, just paint it just an awful yellow color so it blinds you into oblivion.
Hey,
and
man,
Needham will be more than happy to do that for you.
That's tactics. I don't know what you're talking about. That's just tactics to blind the other drivers. And you can't tell me otherwise.
Also, on the back of my spec racer Ford, it says, know what you're doing. So people behind me have to know what they're doing. There's some irony there, though, if they pass me, though.
Here's the thing. I mean, fair point. However, there is some truth to that statement, as you are kind of teaching them what to do while you're driving. So, I mean, you could say that as well. But if you want to take us through the first half of that grid right there, Brian.
Brian Voles, the struggle bus driver earlier on, is going to find himself sitting on pole due to the field inversion. The rookie, Mr. Sheriff Randall himself, he had a great run. He made a few mistakes here and there, but he's going to have to keep himself clean throughout this race because, well, there's some fast drivers behind him.
Absolutely. And then there's Nick Leidy, Coy McGrath, going to be in that fourth spot because of the inversion, the top 8 inverting. Dan Gallupo, Caleb Clifton made his way back all the way up to third place off of Dan Gallupo's mistake. Corey Abbott in 7th, going to be starting. Jimmy Hayden, we have seen it before multiple times, coming back from 8th place to win it. We'll see if he can do it again. Anthony Cuthbert, Jason Heisey, Andrew Hardcastle, and Kenny McGrath, all of those guys making the back of the grid.
Green flag underway here at the go-kart track, Tsukuba. It's going to be Brian Voles leading the field into turn number 1. It's Sheriff on the outside, an incredible run by him. He washes out a little bit wide, allowing Caleb Clifton to come back. There's an incident in the back, though. I'm not sure who that is.
Corey Abbott. That is Corey Abbott, all the way in the back right there. He gets off on turn 1 as it's 3 wide going into turn 6 and 7.
Nick looks like he has damage there. His car is just a little slow. The inside lane doesn't work for one. Around somebody goes. That's a 3-car of Heisey. It's just catastrophe after catastrophe. These drivers are making mistakes. They're just too focused on their, well, these passes they're attempting to make. But it's lap 1. You're turning about 45-second laps, and it's a 30-minute race.
And
can't be players now.
And off of lap 1 already, Jimmy Hayden from 8th to 5th, moving up 3 places, 2 wide, going into that turn 3 right there. And Dan Gallupo will take the lead of this race over Andrew Hardcastle momentarily.
Caleb Clifton is right behind Brian Voles, pressuring those mirrors, flooding those mirrors, and telling Brian in the car before that he is ready to go for a pass. Sheriff is also feeling that pressure as Brian washes just a bit wide, wheels off into the grass. He ends up spinning on the curb. That's a dangerous place to go around. He has to be very careful of entering back in the track. He's probably going to have to wait for every single driver to go around him.
No doubt about that, and he's going to lose prime places. And even Coy McGrath, the number 2 car, all the way down in 10th place right now as he has spun earlier somewhere in the back of the pack on lap 2 somewhere as well. And there's another car getting squirrely right there, and that's Randall Sheriff in the number 6 on that back straight.
Our rookie is now down 2 spots from the start of this race. He is running with some of the best drivers here in Downshift Esports, so he has the ability to learn from the bunch, and Dan Gallupo is now feeling the pressure of Caleb Clifton in that 24 car. Caleb has done a wonderful job of pressuring drivers, just filling their mirrors, and you can see Dan is even locking up as a result of that. And this might be Caleb's opportunity to go for the pass. He goes on the wide angle. He goes around. I think Dan gave him that. Dan felt the pressure, and he surrenders that spot. And now he has Jimmy Hayden and the 42 car behind him.
Which is interesting. He gives the spot to Caleb Clifton very early on with 27 minutes to go still and some change. And then now has Jimmy Hayden, who could potentially be his competitor. Dan might have some kind of trick up his sleeve in order to hold up Jimmy. We'll see.
Sometimes if I'm running with a teammate, I will give them the spot if I know that they're faster, because sometimes it's better just to work, draft, and push your teammate than it is to be slowing them down, which ultimately will allow the pack behind you to catch. And Dan's actually doing a wonderful job of maintaining his speed. I mean, Jimmy's right there, but Caleb Clifton hasn't drifted too far ahead.
And sideways he goes. Jimmy Hayden getting a little bit of a tap there, and he goes sideways, backwards on the kart.
Great control from Jimmy Hayden to be able to correct that error, but he has fallen deep into the field, Drew. This is not where Jimmy Hayden wants to be. This is not the championship run that he wants to make, especially since Caleb Clifton is now leading this race. This might be the 4th race in a row that Caleb Clifton ends up winning.
And that would be something that Caleb Clifton is definitely wanting to happen. But Nick Leidy, looking at the back of his mirrors, is currently seeing a Kenny McGrath in that number 15 car. Kenny, 4th place right now, running 4th, 8 places up. That has to be something for Kenny McGrath right there. But Jimmy Hayden also on the back of him.
It seems like Kitty and Coy have just switched spots today, where we saw Coy running very well in the 15 car. If Kenny was struggling during practice, and I mean, Coy has just fallen off pace altogether. Now 5 positions down and turning lap times nowhere close to the qualifying times that he had. And I think Coy is just suffering right now. And that's going to be the 42 car going around the 15 of
This is dangerous.
Kenny, and well done.
Oh, it's still dangerous, though, as that is a very tough overtaking position. Jimmy wanted to try it, still has that outside momentum, and he will be able to hold on to that. Great driving from both the 42 and the 15 to keep it under control.
Man, I got to be critical of Kenny. He was way too nice there. He gave almost 2 car lengths of room. Again, you only really need to give an inch. And as a result, he destroys his corner entry and corner exit because he enters in at a really aggressive corner speed. And, well, he's going to make a mistake, and now he's going to feel the pressure in from behind. That's Abbott behind him, who spun early on.
Yeah, and it looks like he's going down the inside as well. He'll have the momentum momentarily, but Kenny McGrath on that outside line earlier on the gas is able to make up that place and keep it away from Corey Abbott. Not for long, though, as Corey Abbott looking down the inside again, coming into turn 3.
They've been too wide for so long. Finally Abbott is able to make the pass and make it stick, and now he has Nick in front of him. And he is just carrying so much speed, he might be able to do it, but there's Kenny on the outside. He's not ready to give up that spot yet, Drew, but the outside lane was just a little bit slow. And now Kenny has dropped back about 7 car lengths. That was just too aggressive for Kenny, and he's going to feel the burden of that now.
Absolutely. He's got a lot of time to make up, and he might get a lot of time made up with Corey Abbott and Nick Lighty right in front of him battling right now. Corey Abbott deciding to stick in line for the time being, and on this turn 3, still in line for the corner. I think that's a smart decision.
The pressure that most of these drivers are feeling right now, this is exactly what we were expecting in this very small track. I mean, again, it's a half mile. It's about a kilometer. And that allows our drivers to constantly be pressuring 3 wide, threading the needle. Oh, and it doesn't work. McGrath goes wide. That's Coy who gets just slammed, door slammed sideways and off track.
And Coy McGrath is probably not going to be happy about that in the slightest. He's going to look to try and see if he can make up any more positions. I mean, there's just nothing you could probably say about that one. It was just really tight racing and unfortunate for Coy to get caught up in it.
I mean, it's such a small track. We talked about that there's just no width to this track, and most drivers are going to find themselves in the exact same spot as Coy is not ready to give things up, still pressuring the driver in front of him. And here's the battle that has been taking place for multiple laps now. It's Abbott behind Nick in the 33 car, and Nick on the defensive lane, but the over-under, a great pressure. Will he be able to do it? Abbott on the inside is good for the pass. Excellently done.
And that's a great pass from Corey Abbott. He's been just trying to time it as well as he could. Looked for his chance, saw it, and did not hesitate. That's a great move from him. And look at the outside battle from Andrew Hardcastle on Kenny McGrath.
Wow, an incredible pass there. Hardcastle, we haven't said much about Hardcastle all day. He struggled during the 15-minute qualifying race, and now he's starting to work his way back up through the field, up 3 spots currently. A driver that has been familiar with decent finishes, top 5s in fact, but he just seems to constantly find himself in really bad positions. He gets involved in racing incidents very early on. This is a clean race for him so far, but he still has 20 minutes left in this race. You have to be clean, and we're seeing a lot of drivers make mistakes.
Absolutely, and there's one right there in the number 6 car, Rendell Sheriff, just catching too much of the curb, had to correct his car, correct his steering rather, just really quick in order to keep his car on the track. Very well done by him. And looking at this battle right now, Nick Lighty being pressured by Dan Galupo, who's looking to have his spot back and going 2x2 into turn 1.
Dan, wonderful run from him, a defensive inside line. He's good for him. He defends it, but now he's going to wash out. Potentially, it might be the over-under, and Nick Lighty won't be able to do so. Man, this track is just creating some wonderful battles. Sean Ryan, Race Control, described this track as a paradise for technical drivers, and we're definitely seeing that pan out today, Drew, because all of these drivers, like the moment you make a mistake, the moment that you climb a curb too aggressively, you put one wheel off, I mean, you're instantaneously facing the wrong direction, and you're going to get freight trained by the other drivers.
Absolutely. It could all go wrong in an instant, and these guys are really doing well, especially all the guys on the lead lap currently, just doing well to try and keep their car as much under control as possible in order to not lose too much time and not lose too much pace. And right now, I mean, the lowest on the lead lap, Anthony Cuthbert, although has had a couple spins, is able to get back on track pretty seamlessly for the time being.
Jimmy Hayden just ran the fastest lap of the entire race, a 38.96. And, well, he's now behind Caleb Clifton by approximately 6 or so seconds. And every single time that Jimmy Hayden runs a faster lap time than Caleb Clifton, that might be the avenue that Jimmy Hayden gets back to the leader. Remember, Jimmy Hayden was facing backwards a few laps ago. He was spun by Brian Voles, and now he's done a wonderful job returning to that second place spot. But Caleb Clifton is miles ahead of him. Now, Jimmy Hayden can see Caleb Clifton, but 6 seconds is no easy feat to, well, undo.
It's definitely not easy, Brian. However, I mean, if we've seen it time and time again from Jimmy Hayden himself, he's been 10 seconds down with somewhere 20 to 15 minutes to go and still been able to pull it off. He's got the talent, he's got the push, and currently getting a decent amount of pace, getting a 10th faster than Caleb Clifton on that last lap. Still dropping on this lap currently, but we'll see how that pans out over the next few laps.
So it's a 10th of a second. That's what Jimmy Hayden is running faster than Caleb Clifton. So with 18 minutes left, assuming that Jimmy Hayden is able to consistently run this pace, he should be able to catch Caleb Clifton at some point. But it's a tall order still. And Caleb Clifton is also one of the best drivers in this field as well. So the top two drivers, the only drivers with wins here in the Formula V series, are going to be fighting it out, a battle to the death, exactly what we'd expect. And look at the right or left-hand side of your screen. Look at the distance Jimmy Hayden has. He's closing that gap constantly.
Absolutely, and like we said before, we've seen it from him in previous races. It's no question that he is going to be able to push to his absolute limit and try and get up there as much as needed to. And right now, he's doing a decent job of cutting down the time ever so slightly as it is to try and catch up to Caleb Clifton. We'll see if it's enough. Meanwhile, Randall Sheriff in that number 6 car currently being held up by the 44, who's currently a lapped car, and Brian Voles, and right on the back of him is a position battle with Corey Abbott.
Brian Voles, the first driver to go officially a lap down. Jason Heisey departed after a turn 1 incident on lap number 1. And if we go back and contrast what we saw during our 15-minute qualifying race, Drew, well, we had multiple drivers a lap down. Now we're about approaching the halfway mark or the 15-minute mark of our 30-minute race, our feature race, and only one driver is going a lap down. That means the majority of our drivers have had huge improvements since that 15-minute practice race.
Absolutely, and I have to say that's one of them right there, and that of Corey Abbott. If you remember back on lap 1, turn 1, Corey Abbott caught up in a turn 1 incident that left him in the grass backwards, and now you're seeing him much less 15 minutes later, not even yet, and he is now P3.
How about the 6 car of Sheriff running in 4th place? Now, technically, he did start in 2nd place for our feature race because of the inversion, but he's the rookie. He's the new blood, and he is driving wheel-to-wheel with the best that Downshift actually has to offer. I mean, he's going to be a driver I think that we're going to be talking about more and more in future Formula V series, because if Sheriff can hang in his first race, I can't wait to see him when we go to our 10th race. Is that Laguna Seca?
10th race will be Laguna Seca. That will be the last one, yep. And look at this, too. McGrath brother action right now. Battles on track. The over-under for Kenny McGrath not necessarily able to work, but Coy McGrath has not been able to shake Kenny. There's a collision! Coy McGrath gets caught up and in. There is a wheel that is not connected to that suspension right there.
Heartbreaking for Coy. He did nothing wrong. There was just an incident in front of him. Maybe we should have gone full course yellow just a bit sooner, but Coy's race is now over. Heartbreaking for him.
He cannot turn. Unreal events happening right there, and that is going to be something that Coy is going to be probably very fuming about, much needless to say. We'll have to see exactly what happens later on. However, at this very moment, he's just fuming under that helmet, no doubt.
Hey, at least he gave himself the award of the most attractive driver in Downshift Esports, so at least he can brag to his competition about that, Drew.
He is a superior McGrath, and I think he will hold that title well.
This is critical for his championship run.
Coy
was currently sitting 2nd in the points championship, and now with the potential DNF, it's going to change everything, because Caleb Clifton, the 3rd place driver in the championship, currently 1st place in the race, and Jimmy Hayden, the 1st place driver in the championship, 2nd in the race, are still live and well and running impeccably.
Absolutely. These guys are just relentless Honestly, it's amazing to see what these guys are able to pull off at this very moment. And right now, it's just astounding that these guys are able to pull off such an amazing race for us currently. They have not faltered in that aspect. They have they have done some great battles as well as we're seeing currently.
Oh, Koi is just retired from the race. That's unfortunate.
And Andrew
Brian Voles,
Hardcastle in the pits as well.
I think he was involved in the incident with Brian Voles that ended up destroying the car. Whoa!
Oh no!
What happened here? The rookie is around. I believe that's Sheriff. Indeed, it is his opening race, Drew. He has been running flawlessly. Very few mistakes from him. It's been an incredible run, and he just gets torpedoed by Brian Voles, the rolling chicane of the day.
Oh man, I feel so bad for Brian Voles, and we're gonna try and get some replays as to all of these incidents very, very soon. But that has got to be one of the most heartbreaking things we're gonna see today, along with what happened with Coy McGrath earlier.
Oh man, we're just seeing so many good drivers be taken out, and look at Nick Leidy, also a lap down now. I'm not sure if that was Caleb Clifton going around him, and oh, Nick Leidy must have been involved. Oh, it wasn't Brian Voles earlier. That's a 20 car.
That's Andrew Hardcastle. That is not a good collision right there, and that's how Coy gets involved as well. Nothing that he could really do there. I think he did everything possible that he could have done to try and avoid that, and here is the incident with Randall Sheriff and Brian Voles.
Oh, the wheels just touched.
That is tight racing right there, Brian, and it goes to show when you race tight like that, you have to expect those things to happen.
Mm-hmm. I mean, it comes down to, we talked about racing Formula cars and wheel hopping. I mean, it's just a implied danger if you're racing Formula cars in real life. Like, you will be upside down at some point in your racing career, and it's going to happen, honestly, more often in iRacing because there's no repercussions of crashing, and you just have to be mindful of where those wheels are going, and if you put them in the wrong spot, you're going to find yourself crashing out, just like we saw there with Brian Voles.
Absolutely. This is Anthony Cuthbert on board. He's going to be battling with Kenny McGrath right ahead of him, as we saw Caleb Clifton currently lapping them, so they will go a lap down as well, and that leaves the top 5 currently, with Sheriff being the last one on the same lap. Now, another note as well, the gap between Caleb Clifton and Jimmy Hayden right now has only fallen to 5 seconds, with 11 minutes and some change left, Brian. This could spell some bad news for Jimmy Hayden.
What is that on our screen right now? It almost looks like it was rain for a second. Maybe that's just all the oil of these abominations
I think it is.
Picking up.
I think it is. It's just a little bit of a something going on with the downshifting. It's a little bit of a dirt and some oil, if I would have to guess. But like I said, these battles are just turning and turning, and some of these guys just don't have enough time left.
5 drivers on the lead lap right now, and an incredible Sheriff being involved in the incident, crashing into the wall even, is still able to be up and running, the final driver on the lead lap. I mean, Caleb Clifton is turning these incredible laps. And same thing can be said for Jimmy Hayden, who has now dropped a second off the time of Caleb Clifton, but I don't know if that's going to be enough, Drew. Jimmy Hayden is running consistently faster times. We talked about this with 17 minutes left on the clock, and we've only dropped an entire second in 7 minutes. That's not going to be enough to take control away from Caleb Clifton.
I agree, and right now he is struggling to try and get as much as he can in terms of performance out of the car, not only out of the car, but out from himself as well. Right now he is struggling to get anything done in that 42 car, and right now Caleb Clifton might just have a little bit of a coast if he chooses to do so in order to finish this race. He is looking to be a promising first place at this very moment with some big points ahead.
Sheriff now finally falls that lap down, and now it's just Abbott, Galupo, Hayden, and Clifton, the leader, on the actual lead lap. It's interesting, though. It took an additional 6 seconds for the field to start to get lapped. And here's that battle still taking place. Man, Kenny does not want to let Cuthbert go at all. Still fighting for that spot. Around and around they go, potentially on the outside, the over-under to put it through, but it doesn't work. And now Jimmy Hayden is caught in this battle. He is now on the lead. He has been on the lead lap, and he doesn't want to be anywhere near these fighting drivers because they're fighting for position while one of the leaders goes around. Great use of the mirrors there from the 15 car. McGrath allowing Jimmy Hayden to go on by at the loss of the track position and the distance between the driver in front of him, Cuthbert, and the 9 car.
Yeah, and that's going to be very unfortunate that Kenny McGrath has had to do so, but Anthony Cuthbert having to do the same thing here on turn 3, which will bring Kenny McGrath just a little bit closer. Now, maybe not enough as he looks to dive down there almost, as it looked like. Couldn't quite make up the position, but Anthony Cuthbert, very slow! And Kenny McGrath gets into the back of him as he goes sideways.
I was waiting for the good old punt to take place. We haven't seen it in a while in that battle. It was so clean. It was so nice, but unfortunately, it looked like McGrath just got a little bit too carried away. And now he's going to find himself a nice spot up, but man, I just hate seeing drivers use that nose cone to turn everybody. Well, it is a small track, and you don't have that runoff, so things happen.
It is interesting, though, as we did see that Anthony Cuthbert was kind of just falling really, really low on pace right there, ever so suddenly. And I'm wondering if that's going to be taken into consideration when race control looks at it. I'm not sure if there's going to be any action. But we'll have to see in due time. As 7 minutes and a little under a quarter left to go.
I mean, in our race early this week with the street stocks, we saw what lap traffic was happening. I mean, even race control, Ryan, he was struggling. Sean Ryan was behind lap traffic, and he just could not negotiate it. And that's just one of the byproducts in Jimmy Hayden, the second place car, just like Sean Ryan finds himself in a pack of cars unable to negotiate, and all that hard work that Jimmy Hayden had just put in, he's now dropped an additional 2 seconds away from Caleb Clifton, now almost approaching an 8-second gap.
Absolutely. It's troubling for some of these guys, especially now that some incidences like that have happened, and maybe even some for like Corey Abbott, for instance, who took an incident on the first lap in turn 1. So we'll have to see if anything comes to fruition with these. I don't imagine that anything will, but never say never, as we say, Brian.
Anything can happen in a
Absolutely.
Small track like this. On a go-kart track with Formula Vs, I mean, Caleb Clifton could find himself in lap traffic and then just be spun, sent in the other direction. Like, you just have no idea what could take place.
It is a fact that racing is very unpredictable in a lot of aspects, and I think these guys are realizing that. I think some of them also are learning to deal with it a little bit as we go. But currently, I mean, it's just been a race so far for Caleb Clifton, as he's led the entire not the entire feature race, I apologize, but the majority of it. And right now, 7.5 seconds back is Jimmy Hayden, his closest competitor. I think he's just got a really big smile on his face at this moment, but everyone always has to remember to finish.
That's the most important thing, right? We're all here to have fun. Like, at the end of the day, that's a service that us at Downshift Esports offer. We want to give our drivers not only a competitive environment where they can practice their skills as Formula V drivers and as well as street stock drivers, but also to enjoy themselves and have fun, right? I mean, the
Absolutely.
whole point of iRacing is to have fun. Like, I come from Siege, Rainbow Six Siege. That's where I do my primary broadcasts. And like, you'll hear people just get angry and get just triggered. And like, that's not fun, man. Like, your whole job is, yeah, of course, be competitive, but like, enjoy yourself, enjoy the journey.
Absolutely. And Anthony Cuthbert off to the side of the racetrack as we see right now, and not quite sure what may have happened in that moment, but now back on track. He has been one of those drivers that has had a very rough time today, not only in the feature race, but also in the sprint race. He's been having trouble all around on his return back to the Formula V League, and hopefully we can get some more action from him later on. But this is a look at what happened to Andrew Hardcastle quite a few laps ago, as it looks to have been just a little bit of a self-spin, a breaking point error right there as well. And I think there's more crashes that happened just later on, just a lap ago as well. Here's Nick Lighty.
Let's see what he ends up doing. Oh, the curb just induces a little bit of oversteer there. At least he's able to keep all four wheels on the track and all four wheels going in the same direction. Our rookie, the 6th car of Sheriff. Is it going to be something similar? Now, our tires are starting to degrade. They're starting to wash away, and I think that was shown there, too, as you can just see, like, that back end just have that little bit of snap oversteer there. The force correction was to go 0 steering angle, and that means you're just going to have to go with the momentum of the car. In that case, it was towards the pits.
Absolutely, and he will go into the pits for a moment just to see what he can do in terms of trying to get either the temperatures up, or he might be parking it. We'll see if the number 6 is back on track very, very soon. However, this battle is the only one currently even close to each other at this very moment in time, and that is Kenny McGrath and Nick Lighty currently.
It's crazy with so many drivers a lap down. It's hard to tell where they are in relationship to each other, but Nick Lighty has been a driver that we've been talking about a decent amount today. He's found himself in a couple of, we'll call them oopsies, Drews. But we'll also
they can be called those, yes. I would probably say that if I were in the car currently and just
that's definitely not what I would say if I was in the car. I'd be saying some other things. So whenever I'm racing, my parents are on the radio, and they receive the worst end of it. They're my spotters as well as my crew chiefs. So like, when there's some shenanigans with other drivers and they forget to install their brain stems and their brains, you know, there's some angry words said over the radio.
I can imagine. I mean, racing is a sport where that would be involved, especially if something just unlikely or very unfavorable happens to you, and I don't doubt that every one of us has had those moments as well, even in iRacing. 1:45 to go though, Brian, and Caleb Clifton now 8 seconds ahead of Jimmy Hayden.
I will say it probably happens more at iRacing, but yeah, poor Jimmy Hayden is just on the struggle bus today. He was running really well. McGrath Kenny is around. He's just a stop in the middle of the track. It's a miracle that drivers are able to get on by him. Nick Lighty, one of those drivers, able to negotiate on around. That was Cuthbert and Sheriff, I believe, that survived that endeavor. But boy, oh boy, that could have been dangerous. We've already seen other drivers spin in that exact same spot, and we saw what happened, that forced retirement of Coy, the brother of Kinney, a few laps ago.
Absolutely, and it's nothing short of just disappointing for both of the McGrath brothers in this feature race currently. And right now, Caleb Clifton getting onto the penultimate lap. He is currently fighting into his way into turn 3 there, going into 4, 5, and 6. And right now, still over 7 seconds away from winning this race. And Jimmy Hayden behind him, he's probably got, like I said before, the biggest smile on his face as he sports that Jeff Gordon inspired livery on that 24 car.
Jimmy Hayden, Caleb Clifton, the only drivers who have been able to even win a Downshift Esports event. Both drivers have 3 race wins underneath their belts, and Caleb Clifton is 1 lap away from being the first driver to win 4 races this season. And I don't know if he'll be able to usurp Jimmy Hayden's control of the points championship, but he is going to be very close to doing so. And poor Coy has fallen off this race earlier on, a DNF for him, and that's only going to help the cause of Caleb Clifton as he crosses the start-finish line with some celebratory S's in the background.
And he's got to be real happy about that. Jimmy Hayden coming across in second place. Meanwhile, now going on to the back straight is Corey Abbott right behind Dan Gallupo. This is for third place, that last place on the podium. Dan still holding tight right there. Corey Abbott going for the inside move, can't quite make up the pace, and Dan Gallupo will take that third place spot.
What a run from Dan Gallupo. He started off perfect in our heat race, and he's going to finish nearly perfect as well. What a Cinderella story for Dan Gallupo. An incredible run from him. I mean, he has had some very unfortunate series of events in some of our races, and he's able to bring it back together at Tsukuba.
And I think he's going to be extremely happy with that result as well. We'll try and see if we can get an interview with him afterwards as well. But looking at the results, I mean, everything is said for itself right there, Brian.
Dan has had now 2 top 5s. It's now going to be his 3rd top 5. An incredible run. Caleb Clifton, that dominant performance from him. The same thing can be said for Jimmy Hayden. Dan and Abbott constantly fighting their way through. Nick Leidy, what a run from him as well. He got caught up in a few incidences. The incident that ended up being terminal for Coy McGrath's car, but able to finish top 5. Great run from Nick.
Absolutely, and we'll take a look at the unofficial standings as well in terms of the points championship. Caleb Clifton, although you are correct, he does not elude Jimmy in terms of the leading points championship right now. He will surpass Coy McGrath, who definitely wish that he might not have had this race. However, these guys still have a drop week as well, and this could go in the column for Coy if he turns out that he has better races in the very near future. But our man of the hour, Dan Gallupo, our biggest mover in that championship as well.
Well done to him. Drew, unfortunately, I have some bad news for you, my friend. We're going to have to dive over to a quick 5-minute break, ladies and gentlemen. Don't go anywhere, because we have an interview coming up with our drivers. See you soon. Welcome back to week 7 of Downshift Esports. We saw a gnarly race on Tsukuba. The go-kart track was exactly what Sean Ryan hyped it up to be. It was chaos, it was crashes of the technical track and everybody going which way. And of course, you know which way we're going, straight over into the interview. Now, we're going to be starting off with Dan Galupo because our friend here has to go eat some sustenance before work. Dan, first off, congrats on your 3rd place finish today, and congrats on now on your third top 5 place finish. What led to your success today?
I don't know. Watching Sean's guide always helps, so thank you for that. But there are just little tweaks that I found mid-race that saved me a couple hundredths here, a tenth there, and I don't know. I think that kind of made the difference, especially when catching back up to Corey in the closing laps there. But yeah, it was. It's been a good couple of races in a row. First podium, so
Absolutely.
and even in the heat, 4th place. So
yeah,
can't be upset with that.
yeah, you have no doubt about it. Since week 1, been improving ever so slightly on the timing tables, and it shows with your podium today. The last 2 races, top 5s as well, as Brian had noted earlier on the broadcast. Have you been looking to try and do some sort of certain practice when it comes to these races, or have you just kind of let the feel of the car and the track come to you as you go?
I guess there's definitely not a certain way. So I would definitely say just letting the car come to me. I'm the way I learn best is just throwing myself at something, and if I smack up against the wall, then tone it back a little bit. If I dribble into it, maybe push a little bit more. So
Perfect.
yeah,
Dan?
nothing more, nothing less than that.
Dan, I'm going to let you go early since you can go to work. Have a safe drive to work. Enjoy your dinner, my friend.
Thanks, buddy.
Cheers. All right, Nick Lighty, over to you, Mr. 33 car. You had some interesting mid-race incidents. Do you mind expanding upon that for me, please?
Yeah, so basically, I had the most fraudulent top 5 of all time, but, yeah, anyways, just, I sort of locked up going to gear 2 on a turn, which put me next to Hardcastle, who's usually a faster driver than me, and, this didn't happen because we're neck and neck in the stands or anything like that, but I just got some understeer. I think he drifted inward and we sort of hit our wheels a little bit, and then he got missiled from the car behind him, and he actually was like a bodyguard for me there. So I got super lucky and I was able to get that fraudulent top 5, and he had to be 21 laps back. It's unfortunate. I used him after the race because I don't like that happening that way. But anyways, first race with the new sponsor, Fruit Strike Gum, the gum that lasts about as long as my championship chances. But so very happy to see that. But it's overall, from the points perspective, it was a good day for me. From a personal, how I grade myself as a driver day, I would maybe disagree with that, but points are points. You take those.
Yeah, it was a great race for you, kind of, in terms of finishing position. Definitely some incidences that happened on track that maybe weren't necessarily in your favor. One that comes to mind immediately was the incident with Andrew Hardcastle. Can you kind of shed some light as to what may have happened there?
Yeah, basically, we were right next to each other going into the, I don't know what number it is, but I call it the second hairpin. And I went, I had the inside angle, and basically I got a lot of understeer, and I honestly should have braked more, but I wasn't even really on the throttle at any point of that. And then I think Andrew was coming inward towards me, and honestly, I think the wheel contact was inevitable, but then we got a little bit of early contact because of netcode when I looked at the replay.
That's probably one of the problems here on such a small track. Since it's a go-kart track, you just have no track exit. I mean, it's such a small width track. Now, Nick, what is your preparation looking like for next week? The daddy version of Tsukuba.
I actually have never run it before, so I have no idea what the course is going to be like. So
Bigger.
basically just get into the lab and run some laps, see what sort of my race pace is going to look like, and see if it's one of those, avoid incident races, which was my strategy here. It didn't work. It worked out in the heat and on the feature. Or if I, think I can really push it like I thought I could last course. So.
Well, I think you'll find that the 2000 version has just the same amount of hairpins as the 1000 version might have, just a little bit bigger. So we'll see how you do next week.
Yeah, well, hopefully the space helps.
Fair enough.
The daddy version. All right, Caleb Clifton, we're heading over to you. First off, though, Nick, congrats on your top 5 today. Wonderful
thank you very much. Thanks again.
Caleb Clifton, your dominant performance has just been unstoppable. 4 races in a row, first driver to win 4 races total. What has led to your success lately?
Not getting wrecked.
That helps.
That helps a
That
little
does help,
bit.
yeah.
I know it would have definitely been a closer race with Jimmy. Had he not had a couple incidents earlier in the race. After that, our gap pretty much never changed the rest of the race. So I know if we were next to each other, we would have been on each other's bumper the whole time, and it would have been a better show for everybody. But like I said last time, I keep drilling down on trying to keep myself consistent and not try to run my fastest lap every lap of the race, because that's kind of what happened in the heat race when I spun in T1.
It can get overwhelming when you try and focus on just creating lap times over and over, but even though there wasn't a battle between you and Jimmy Hayden, there was battles all over the track. I mean, the shortness and the fact that this track is so small, 0.5 miler this is. I mean, how tough was it to try and get around this track, and how much did that lapped traffic also have an effect on both of your guys' race?
It had a bit of an effect, although most of the drivers were getting out of the way for the leader at a decent time, so I appreciate that from the guys that did that. I definitely had to fight for 1 or 2 of them, but we got there in the end.
Now, Caleb, what does your championship run look like? You're currently sitting second in the points. You're now only a few points behind Jimmy Hayden. What do you need to do to take that first place spot?
Well, I need to stop choking the heat race, first of all, because even though I won the feature race, if I'm reading things right, Jimmy got 1 more point than me over the course of the race. Either that or we got the exact same amount. I can't quite read into it yet, but yeah, him getting pole and him winning the heat race definitely prevented me from closing the gap at all on him.
Perfect. Drew, any more closing remarks? Can we let our drivers go back home and touch grass, as we joked about earlier today?
Well, I just got to say thank you guys for putting on a great show today, and congrats, Caleb, on your win. I'm expecting a shoey somewhere in the middle of this, so if you get that on video, please let me know and send it to me so I can make it published.
Copy that.
Caleb, Nick, thank you guys so much for stopping on by. Dan, who's already departed to go to work. Gentlemen, it was a pleasure talking to you guys today. It's always a pleasure chatting with you guys. Hopefully more interviews to come, but take care today, guys.
Yep, thanks. Always appreciate it.
Cheers.
Thank you.
Now, Drew, what do drivers need to do to be like Caleb, to be like Nick, to enter into the next Downshift Esports event?
Well, the thing you can do is make sure to go to downshift.esports.com, go up to the social links in the top right, and go to the Discord. You'll find everything you need to know about getting into either the Street Stock League or the Formula V League for the rest of the season up there. And once you join, you may find that there may be some announcements for expansions in the very near future. Make sure to look out for that. But I'll keep my lips sealed for the very moment, Brian.
Okay. So once you enter into Downshift Esports and you want to look cool in game, well, how do you do that?
Well, you can go over to needhamdesigns.uk/Discord to go get your own livery and look just as cool as these guys that were on track today. Nick Leidy's sporting a great bubblegum livery, and Caleb Clifton in that vintage Jeff Gordon livery just makes for some great vision on track, as well as some great battles, and hopefully you guys will be able to get one too. So if you want your own livery, make sure to go to needhamdesigns.uk/Discord.
Drew, my friend, it's always a pleasure to broadcast with you. Always a
Absolutely.
pleasure to cast with you. Sadly, we won't be back next
sushi,
week.
You know?
We do.
We gotta go get
You're gonna
sushi
fly
for
out to
California. Hey, we're still in Japan, man. We gotta go get sushi before the plane leaves.
Of course. I totally forgot that we're in Japan. My bad, bro. I'll log that in my head. But Drew, it was always fun with you, my friend. Congrats, Caleb Clifton, on your victory, your 4th one in a row. Ladies and gentlemen, we'll be returning December 12th. That's a Thursday, starting at 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time,
December 2nd,
8 p.m.
actually.
Eastern. It's the 2nd?
The second
It is a
for
second.
Formula V.
Yes.
For
I lied.
Formula V, we'll be back, but make sure to tune in on November 30th for the Street Stock League as well. That will be premiering before the Formula V League.
Those are always on Tuesdays. Ladies and gentlemen, stay safe, stay well, and we'll be back with you in 2 weeks.